Yes.
I'll give you my hotel if you can get a smile from a guest who hates me.
I'll give you my hotel if you can get a smile from a guest who hates me. If you can make Mr. Raiden smile, the hotel is yours. Donald's voice echoes like a hammer blow, cutting through the murmur of the hall. Glasses are raised, laughter spreads. The sound of crystal striking marble mingles with a collective laugh that vibrates like mockery. In the corner, the maid, Grace Miller, grips the tablecloth with trembling hands. Her face is pale, her eyes lowered, trying to disappear. But he continues, savoring his cruelty. Did you hear me, girl? A smile. That's all. From the man who hates the world. If you can do that, the hotel is yours. If not, well, maybe you'll learn to smile while scrubbing floors for the rest of your life. The crowd laughs. The waiters exchange nervous glances. The manager forces a servile smile. Everything is a spectacle. Donald Kearns is the kind of man who never speaks, he announces. Owner of Kearns Hospitality, an empire of glass and arrogance. The ballroom of the flagship hotel in Manhattan is packed. Tonight is the gala, the launch of the new presidential wing. But now, the event becomes a stage, and Grace, a disposable pawn. She presses the cloth to her chest and glances quickly at the elevator in the back, as if there were an escape there. Mr. Kearns, I can't, she tries to say, but he interrupts her with a snap of his fingers. You can. Everyone can smile, even a monster. The name falls heavy in the air. Raiden Carter. The guest in 14B. The man no one wants to serve. A former war photographer. Eyes like burned steel. Scars that never seem to heal. He's already driven away 2 employees who swore never to go back up that floor. And now, his name becomes the center of a cruel bet. Donald laughs. Go on, show us the power of your sweetness. If that man smiles, the hotel is yours. The lights reflect off the mirrored floor. Grace takes a deep breath. The laughter seems to echo inside her like a distant drum. She thinks of her sick mother in Ohio, the overdue bills, the double shifts. That job is all she has, and all she feels, in that moment, is shame and a quiet rage boiling beneath the surface. But when she looks at Donald, something changes in her eyes. It's not defiance or courage. It's humanity. A kind of strength money can't buy. The entire ballroom watches. A waiter whispers, "Poor thing." Another mutters, "She'll never do it." Donald raises his glass again, pleased with his own show. So it's settled. A smile, just one. And someone record this, please. It'll be fun. Cameras turn, lights flash, and Grace feels the weight of the world on her shoulders. She takes one step, then another. The sound of her heels on the marble floor ticks like a clock, marking the start of something inevitable. The elevator opens with a metallic sound. Guests lean forward, curious. Donald leans against the bar, laughing. Anyone here think she's coming back with the hotel in her pocket? Laughter, applause, toasts, but she doesn't answer. She just steps into the elevator, the cloth still in her hands, eyes fixed on the glowing panel. The number 14 shines like destiny. The elevator ascends slowly. Her reflection in the mirror looks like someone else, an ordinary woman about to face something everyone else avoids. The door opens to a silent corridor, carpeted in red and smelling faintly of disinfectant. The lights flicker. The air is cold. She walks to 14B. With each step, the sounds from the ballroom fade away, as if she were leaving the world behind. She knocks once. No answer. Knocks again, harder. The sound reverberates. Silence. Then a hoarse voice cuts through the door. Go away. She swallows hard. Mr. Carter, I'm sorry to bother you. I said go away. The shout comes with force. She steps back, heart racing. But she doesn't give up. She looks at the cleaning cart beside her, pulls out a small dried flower kept inside a glass cup, a keepsake from her mother's funeral. She places the flower in front of the door, then takes a piece of paper and writes, with a trembling hand, I didn't come to clean. I came to understand. She leaves the note there and steps back, her chest tight. As she walks toward the elevator, a security camera follows her movement. Donald, down in the ballroom, watches everything on the front desk monitor. She actually went up? Look at that, this is going to be good. Hours later, Raiden Carter opens the door. He sees the flower, the note. His eyes narrow. His face is a mixture of anger and exhaustion. He picks up the paper, reads it, and crushes it without hesitation. But for a moment, before throwing it away, His gaze lingers on the flower. Something flickers and dies in his eyes. In the lobby, Donald raises his glass again, satisfied. See that? 1 minute up there and nothing. That's the difference between those born to command and those born to serve. The guests laugh. Grace, however, stands still in front of the elevator doors, staring at the digital panel. Inside, she feels that the bet isn't over. It's just begun. Night falls. Manhattan sleeps under blue lights. On the 14th floor, room 14B goes dark again. Hand outside the door on the carpet, the dried flower remains, fragile, persistent, silent. A simple gesture against the cynicism of an empire. The next morning, sunlight filters through the glass walls of the lobby, but the air feels colder. The whole hotel talks about her. The maid from the bet. They whisper in hallways, kitchens, backstage. Some mock, others pity. Donald arrives early, wearing a new suit, eyes predatory. Is she going to try again? He asks, stirring his coffee as if stirring fate. The manager hesitates to answer. Sir, she arrived before everyone else. Donald smiles. Excellent. Let the show go on. On the 14th floor, the corridor is empty. Grace pushes the cleaning cart slowly, the sound of the wheels echoing like a clock reminding her that time is running against her. The carpet still bears traces from the night before. The dried flower is gone. Only the note remains, torn into pieces. She kneels, gathers the fragments, and takes a deep breath. A smile, just one smile. She whispers the words like a prayer. From inside the room, a sound, heavy footsteps, a chair being dragged. Raiden's voice emerges again, rougher, closer. I told you not to come back. She places her hand on the door, too afraid to knock. Mr. Carter, I'm sorry. I just came to bring your coffee. It's part of the service. Silence. Then, the dry click of the lock being released. The door opens a crack. One eye appears. Grey, deep, tired. Raiden Carter doesn't look like a man. He looks like the ghost of one. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, trembling hands holding a cup. You think you can save me with coffee? His voice is cold steel. I just thought you might want company. He laughs. A short, joyless sound. Company? Girl, I took pictures of people dying alone in deserts. There's no company for someone who's seen what I've seen. She stays still. The silence between them feels like a minefield. Raiden begins to close the door, but she extends her hand. May I leave this here? She shows a small tray with coffee, bread, and a napkin folded into the shape of a bird. He hesitates, his eyes resting on the origami. You made this yourself? She nods. Yes, sir. He picks up the napkin, studies the delicate folds. For a moment, his face softens. Is that a nightingale? She smiles faintly. A nightingale, yes. The bird that sings even when the world is in ruins. Raiden looks at her, a second too long, then he closes the door. Dryly, definitively. Grace steps back, but something feels different now. He didn't yell. He didn't break anything. He just closed the door. It's little, but it's a crack of light. Downstairs, Donald watches everything through the cameras, chewing with impatience. She's going to lose. That man hasn't smiled in 10 years. Beside him, the manager tries to hide his concern. Sir, maybe it's best to stop. Stop, Donald laughs. We're in the middle of the best entertainment this hotel has ever had. The audience loves to see someone drown while trying to swim. In the afternoon, Grace returns to 14B. The hallway is silent. The smell of coffee still in the air. She carries a tray with a small envelope. Inside, an old photo of the lobby taken by some anonymous photographer, perhaps Raiden himself, back when he still saw beauty. Mr. Carter? She calls softly. No response. She leaves the envelope under the door and walks away. On the other side, Raiden watches her shadow fade. He picks up the envelope, opens it, and looks at the photo. A reflection of light, a child's smile in the corner, an almost invisible detail. Life before pain. Something tightens inside him. A memory of times when he still believed in people. He holds the photo for long seconds, then leans against the wall and closes his eyes. No tears come, only the weight of the past. In the lobby, Donald raises his glass once more. 2 days and not a single smile. I bet she gives up tomorrow. The guests laugh, repeating the story as a joke. But no one notices that on the security monitor, for just a second, Raiden appears sitting on the floor holding a photo in his hands, and however brief, there's something different on his face. A barely visible curve at the corner of his mouth. Grace steps out of the elevator and crosses paths with Donald in the hallway. He stares at her cruelly. "So did you get the smile?" She looks back at him, but for the first time without lowering her eyes. "Not yet." "Then give up, girl. Some people were born to serve. Others to see the world as it is," she answers firmly, "or to remind it of what it's forgotten." He laughs mockingly, but a flicker of unease begins to seep through his arrogance. That night it rains. Thunder shakes the hotel windows. Grace walks alone down the corridor barefoot, holding a bucket and cloth. From 14B comes music, low, almost a lament. She moves closer, pressing her ear to the door. It's a piano, slow, melancholic notes. The sound of someone trying to remember what it felt like to be alive. She doesn't knock, she just listens. Inside, Raiden plays with trembling fingers. When he stops, silence returns like a wall. Grace whispers, "Thank you." She doesn't know if he heard, but something inside her shifts. For the first time, she believes the impossible is moving, even if only by millimeters. Donald in his office replays the day's recordings. He stops at one frame, zooms in on Raiden's face, that almost curve of a smile. He presses his lips together, unsettled. It can't be. The gleam in his eyes is no longer amusement. It's fear. Fear of losing control over his own cruelty. Outside, the rain continues. On the 14th floor, the dried flower is gone, but the scent of coffee lingers in the air, mixed with something new, a silent, invisible promise made of patience and pain. And on the security camera screen, the clock strikes 11:59 p.m. as Grace passes once more in front of room 14B. This time she leaves nothing behind. She only smiles, alone. Because sometimes the first smile doesn't come from the one challenged, but from the one who dares to believe. The next morning, Donald arrives at the hotel before everyone else, his suit perfectly aligned, his gaze full of boredom and superiority. Standing by the barista, he speaks loudly for anyone who wishes to hear. 2 days and no smile. I bet by tomorrow she'll be begging for her job. The security guards laugh, the manager pretends to laugh too, but deep down, there's an unease no one dares to voice. Donald is enjoying someone else's misery far too much, and it's starting to seem perverse even to those who fear him. He gestures to the camera technician. "I want all the footage from the 14th floor, every second, every glance. We'll turn this into something inspirational or educational, depending on the outcome." The man swallows hard, but obeys. The security screens flicker to life, splitting the floor into 8 camera angles. The bet becomes a show. Donald leans back in his chair, coffee in one hand, malice in the other. Upstairs, Grace is changing the sheets in room 1408 when she hears footsteps behind her. The manager approaches cautiously. "Grace, Mr. Kearns asked you to go back up to 14B. He said he wants results." She doesn't respond, just zips up the linen bag and grabs her cart. "I'll go." The man tries to stop her. "You don't have to do this. It's already humiliating enough." She looks at him firmly and replies softly, "It's not for him." The hallway feels longer than ever. With each step, the sound of the cart's wheels mixes with the low hum of hidden cameras. Donald watches everything from the screens. "Look at that. She's going again, what a spectacle." The staff gathers, managers, guards, attendants, all discreetly summoned to witness the final attempt. No one speaks. They just watch. Humiliation has become entertainment. Grace stops in front of door 14B and takes a deep breath. Knocks once. Silence. Knocks again. A muffled sound inside. Then the door opens, and Raiden appears, his face even more worn, beard unkempt. "You again." She holds the cloth against her chest. "I didn't come to bother you, just to bring this." She extends a small wooden box. He stares, suspicious. "What is it?" "Old photos of the hotel. I found them in storage. I thought maybe you'd like to see something beautiful." He hesitates, then opens the box. Inside are yellowed photographs of the hotel in the 1950s. Couples dancing, children running, forgotten smiles. Raiden's gaze lingers on the images. "I took this one." He points to a photo. A reflection in a mirror reveals the young photographer he once was. Grace notices his trembling hands. "I remember that day," he murmurs. "My wife used to say this ballroom looked like a dream." The silence is heavy. She says nothing, only watches him. It's the first time he's spoken about the past. Suddenly, the hallway radio crackles. Donald's voice rings out clearly. "So, Grace, Did you get a smile in there yet? Or should I send up some champagne to cheer him up? The sound cuts through the air like a blade. Raiden snaps the box shut. His expression changes, brick cold, hostile. This is a bet? She stammers. No, You're using me to entertain that worm downstairs? His tone burns with restrained fury. Grace tries to explain. He made the bet I didn't. But you accepted it. He steps forward and she backs away, feeling the air grow thin. Get out. She tries to leave the box behind, but he slams the door shut. I don't need your pity. The wood echoes through the empty hallway. The cameras capture everything. Donald smiles. There it is. The world as it is. Empathy is a lie. People just pretend. Grace walks to the elevator, her face wet with tears she tries to hide. Downstairs the laughter returns, but something shifts. Among the staff, some avert their eyes. Others whisper, ashamed. Donald's cruelty is beginning to feel like too much, even for his flatterers. In the security room, the technician scrolls through the footage frame by frame. In one, before Raiden shuts the door, his gaze lingers on the ballroom photo. There's pain, but also hesitation. Mr. Kearns, the technician says, I don't think he hates her. Donald frowns. He hates enough. And that's what I like. Pure, unfiltered hate. That night, Grace sits alone in the locker room, knees drawn to her chest, her uniform still damp, her body exhausted. In front of her, the small badge hanging from her bag, Grace Miller, housekeeping. She runs her finger over her name as if touching a wound. She remembers what Raiden said. You accepted. And she realizes he was right. She didn't accept the challenge for money, but for something she still can't explain. A desperate attempt to prove that not everything is cruel. Meanwhile, Raiden sits on the edge of his bed, the box still on the table. He opens it again, picks up the photo, and holds it under the dim lamplight. The image shows him and his wife dancing in the same ballroom where the billionaire now laughs. For a moment, his eyes fill with water. He tries to resist, but his face contorts, and a tear escapes. On the monitor feed, Donald sees the room's camera capturing only shadows. He doesn't see the tear, only Raiden sitting still. He's not smiling, see? He never will. His laughter echoes hollow. Before the end of her shift, Grace returns to the 14th floor. She finds the photo box outside the room. On top, one of the pictures is different. Raiden has scratched it, leaving only his wife's face intact. On the back, a handwritten note reads, Not everything beautiful has to smile. She grips the paper tightly, her eyes glistening. Donald watches through the cameras, irritated by the lack of drama. Enough, tomorrow I'm ending this nonsense. I want everyone here to watch. The manager asks quietly, And if she succeeds, sir? Donald glares at him as if insulted. No one can make a man smile who was made to hate. But that night, while the hotel sleeps, an unseen scene unfolds beyond the cameras. Grace returns quietly to the hallway and leaves. On the carpet before 14B, a small mirror with a phrase written in red lipstick, Some smiles need to be rebuilt. Raiden opens the door minutes later. He finds the mirror, reads the words, and instinctively touches them with his finger. His reflection stares back at him. And for a fleeting moment, he feels something he hasn't felt in years. The weight of his own face, remembering it's still human. The next morning, the hotel wakes up to a new rumor. The billionaire is going to broadcast the end of the bet. Donald Kearns arrives promptly at 8, surrounded by cameras, reporters, and onlookers. The lobby feels like a theater. The golden logo, Kearns Hospitality, gleams above the columns, like a crown over a kingdom of cynicism. He walks slowly, the sound of his shoes echoing. Today's the big day, he announces with theatrical flair. Either the girl proves kindness exists, or everyone learns what I've always known, that empathy is just a cheap trick. The tech team adjusts the hidden cameras on the 14th floor. One of the guards mutters, "This is madness." Donald replies without looking, "It's entertainment." Grace arrives a few minutes later, her uniform clean, but her eyes tired. Her co-workers avoid looking at her. None have the courage to face the shame hanging in the air. The manager tries to stop her. "Grace, you don't have to go. He doesn't want proof. He wants to destroy you." She answers softly, almost a whisper. Then let him see what it means to be destroyed in silence. She takes the elevator up, her heart pounding. She feels the weight of the unseen cameras. She can't see them, but she knows they're there. Downstairs, Donald orders, "Adjust the audio. I want to hear every word." The giant screen in the lobby shows the 14th floor hallway. The audience gathers, some holding champagne glasses, others wearing expressions torn between curiosity and unease. Grace stops before room 14B. The corridor is darker than usual, as if the hotel itself were holding its breath. She knocks. No answer. Knocks again. Then Raiden's voice comes, cold, weary. Thought you'd given up. Not yet. The door opens slowly. He looks thinner, but his eyes are more alive. What do you want this time? She holds up a small leather-bound album. I want to show you something. Raiden hesitates, then steps aside. Grace enters. The security camera focuses on the room's interior. Shades of grey, closed curtains, the smell of loneliness thick in the air. She opens the album. They're old photos of the hotel, the same ones from before, but now restored. The tears mended, the stains cleaned. In the middle, one photo of him and his wife, smiling. How did you get this? He asks, voice trembling. Found it in the archives. I restored it last night. I think broken things deserve to be seen again. He runs his fingers over his wife's face in the photo. His breathing falters. She loved this place. Said the world felt kind here. I hated this hotel because it was the last place I saw her smile. Grace stays silent. The camera catches the exact moment he lowers his head, hands trembling. Downstairs, the entire lobby watches in silence. Donald smiles, pleased with the unfolding drama. Look at that. Tragedy and the perfect stage for false heroes. One employee snaps, Sir, this isn't right. Donald ignores him. Right is winning. Everything else is distraction. Raiden closes the album and hands it back. You want me to smile, that's it, isn't it? I don't want anything. I just thought you should remember there's still beauty. He laughs bitterly. Beauty doesn't save anyone. Grace clutches the album to her chest. No, but sometimes it keeps us from dying inside. A long silence fills the room. The camera zooms in slowly. Raiden lifts his eyes. For a moment there's peace there. Then he says quietly, You don't know what it's like to lose everything. She replies firmly, No, sir, but I know what it's like to be treated like nothing. He looks at her. His expression softens. Respect, maybe. You're braver than you seem. Downstairs, Donald feels control slipping through his fingers. Cut to another angle. Come on, show me something useful. The screens flicker. The audience splits, some rooting for her, others mute. For the first time, the billionaire looks nervous. Then suddenly, Raiden shuts the album and stands. Enough. I won't smile just to give you a trophy. It's not for me, she says. Then for who? She hesitates, then answers, For you. He turns, eyes glistening. I can't. You can. You just forgot how. The silence stretches, thick, almost sacred. Downstairs, no one breathes. The cameras capture every micro-gesture, his trembling hand, her steady gaze. But the smile doesn't come. Instead, he closes the curtains and steps away. Grace leaves the room in silence. In the lobby, Donald bursts into laughter. Told you! Hate is stronger! That's what the world's made of! The crowd laughs with him, but it sounds wrong. More shame than amusement. You lost, girl. You're fired. She looks at him, pale, but calm. May I go now? Go ahead, but take your failure with pride. It's the only thing you'll ever carry. His words echo through the hall. The cameras are still rolling, capturing everything. Grace walks to the elevator. Silence fills the air. Even the sound of her footsteps hurts. Donald can't resist one last jab. You know what you learned? The world doesn't change with flowers. She looks at him, eyes glistening but voice firm. It doesn't change with flowers. It changes when someone decides to plant one, even knowing no one will look. She steps into the elevator and the doors close. Inside, alone, she holds the album, takes a deep breath. Tears fall, but along with them comes something new, peace. In the lobby, the crowd begins to scatter. Some employees remove their badges, disillusioned. The camera technician shuts off the monitors, but one screen stays on. On it, Raiden stands in his room, holding the mirror she left behind. He reads again the words written in lipstick. Some smiles need to be rebuilt. His reflection trembles. His lips move. There's no sound, but there is change. Donald turns away, unaware. It's over, and he leaves, satisfied. But the hotel seems to breathe differently, as if something invisible had begun to change the air. And for the first time, no one watching knows who really won. The dismissal came before dawn. Grace was called into the manager's office. He couldn't meet her eyes. "I'm sorry, Grace. Mr. Kearns has requested your immediate termination." She simply nodded without arguing. "May I finish my shift?" The man hesitated. "There's no shift left for you." The words sounded like a sentence. She took her badge, slipped it into her pocket, and left in silence. Outside, the air in Manhattan was damp and grey, and the city seemed indifferent to the collapse of an anonymous life. As she walked down the street, chaos erupted inside the hotel. A technician from the IT department, outraged by Donald's cruelty, had leaked the internal recordings, the video of the bet, the arrogant words, the collective laughter, the public humiliation, began circulating on social media with a simple caption: "Billionaire offers his hotel in exchange for a smile." Within 6 hours, millions of views. In the comments, outrage, disbelief, disgust. The image of the Kearns empire was crumbling. Donald, locked inside his suite, watched the news with the forced calm of a man pretending not to care. "People love inventing villains," he told his assistant. "They'll forget by tomorrow." But the assistant didn't reply. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. The company board demanded a press conference. The press camped outside the hotel. The empire built on arrogance was beginning to collapse under the weight of its own pride. At the same time, in Grace's small apartment, silence filled the room. A box with her few belongings sat on the table, her folded uniform beside it. Her phone buzzed non-stop. Messages from strangers, journalists, people thanking her for her courage. She didn't answer. What she had done felt like nothing more than being human, and now the entire world was watching her as if she were a symbol. On the 14th floor, Raiden watched the news on his old TV. His own face appeared on the footage, blurred by security cameras alongside the billionaire's mocking voice. He turned the TV off and sat on the bed, the photo album still in his hands. His eyes fell on the picture of his wife. "She just wanted to see the good in people," he murmured, and something in his chest broke, not in pain but in resolve. By 10 a.m., the lobby was packed with reporters. Donald descended the stairs wearing his usual rehearsed smile. It was all just a joke, a metaphor. People have lost their sense of humor. A reporter shoved a microphone toward him. "You humiliated an employee on live broadcast. She participated willingly." Camera shutters snapped. Flashes burst. But before he could continue, a murmur rippled through the crowd. The elevator doors opened. Raiden Carter stepped out. In a dark suit, his face still stern but upright, as if carrying something sacred. The entire hall went silent. Donald blinked, surprised. "Mr. Carter, and what an unexpected honor." "Don't call shame an honor," Raiden replied, his voice low and sharp. "You made a bet with someone else's pain, and you lost." Donald forced a laugh. "Lost? You didn't smile, remember?" Raiden took a step forward, his voice steady, cameras turning toward him. "I didn't smile for you, Kearns, I smiled for her. And that's enough." A murmur spread through the hall. Donald tried to regain control. "Oh, please, spare me the moral lecture. It was a joke." Raiden lifted the photo album. "This woman brought back something you destroyed in everyone here, humanity. You mocked her for trying to see what little light was left in me, and she succeeded. Maybe not in front of the cameras, but in what was left of my soul." The crowd began to applaud. The flashes intensified. Donald stepped back slightly. "That proves nothing." "It proves everything," Raiden said, "because when a man who's lost everything begins to feel again, the entire world shifts. You promised her the hotel if I smiled. Well, I smiled. And everyone here has seen the price of your word." The manager approached, trembling. "Mr. Kearns, the press is recording." "Let them. It's all theater." But even his own voice began to waver. The audience, once filled with flattery, now looked at him with disgust. Raiden turned to the cameras, speaking calmly. "I, Raiden Carter, testify before everyone here. This woman deserves the hotel he promised. And if he has any honor left, he'll keep his word." A heavy silence filled the room. Donald tried to laugh, but the sound died in his throat. "This is absurd. There's no document, no contract." Then the security technician raised his hand. "There's footage and audio." He plugged a flash drive into the big screen. The image appeared. The exact moment of the party. Donald raising his glass and shouting, "I'll give you my hotel if you can get a smile from a guest who hates me." The sound echoed through the hall, amplified by the speakers. The crowd reacted like a wave. The press captured everything. Donald turned pale. That was, taken out of context. There's no context for humiliation, Raiden replied. Only choice. And you chose cruelty. Outside, sirens mixed with flashes and shouts. Inside, Donald looked around, surrounded. His eyes searched for allies, but found none. Grace, outside the hotel, watched from the window. She didn't smile, didn't celebrate. She simply observed the spectacle of downfall in silence, and that said everything. Raiden saw her and motioned for her to come in. She hesitated, then crossed the crowded lobby. People parted to let her through. Donald, unsure what to do, tried to keep his composure. "Hey, you think this will ruin me? I am the hotel." Raiden stepped closer until they stood face to face. No, the hotel is what it represents, and today it represents her. The crowd erupted in applause. Donald stood motionless, his hands trembling. For the first time there was no audience on his side. Grace stood beside Raiden. She looked at Donald with calm eyes. "I don't want your hotel, Mr. Kearns. I just want you to know what it feels like to be looked at without respect." He turned away, and in that small gesture, he lost everything money could buy: authority, pride, applause. The cameras captured the exact moment Raiden, before everyone, smiled for real. A small, sincere, liberating smile. The image would go viral again, this time as a symbol of redemption. Donald Kearns, the man who didn't believe in empathy, became the living portrait of his own moral failure. The crowd was still applauding when the hotel doors closed behind Donald Kearns. The clamor of cameras, flashes, and reporters outside had turned into a chaotic roar. Inside, silence carried another weight, that of an empire beginning to crumble. The billionaire hurried down the corridor, his face pale, sweat dripping down his forehead. Every employee he passed avoided his eyes. For the first time, no one pretended to respect him. The board of directors was already gathered in the main conference room. The lawyers, dressed in dark suits, stacked papers on the table. One of them spoke without looking up. "Mr. Kearns, there are reputation clauses in the holding company's contracts. The footage and audio are evidence. You've subjected the brand to public ridicule." Donald tried to sound authoritative. "It was a joke. You think some stupid bet will take my hotel?" The lawyer cut him off. "It wasn't just a bet. It was public humiliation, broadcast and recorded. You gave your word before witnesses and cameras. Legally, that's binding." Donald's face tightened. "You wouldn't dare." The oldest board member replied coldly, "We would, because you cost us billions in market value in a single day." A dossier slid across the table. Headlines, screenshots, hashtags. The smile bet, Grace wins, Kearns karma. The image of him raising his glass had become a symbol of arrogance. The photo of Grace in her simple uniform and serene gaze was already on newspaper covers. Outside, Raiden and Grace waited, surrounded by reporters. He watched her silently. "Will you accept the hotel?" She shook her head. "I don't know what to do with something that's always stood for everything I don't believe in." He smiled, the same smile that had changed everything. "Then make it what it should have been, a place where people feel human." The conference room doors opened. Donald emerged with his lawyers. His face was blank, colorless, speechless. An aide announced, "The board has decided to honor the recorded promise. The hotel will be transferred to Grace Miller." The room filled with murmurs. Donald exploded, "You're giving my empire to a maid?" The lawyer replied, "It's not your empire anymore. It's the consequence of your ego." He lunged toward Grace, eyes blazing. "You think you've won? You're only worth something because you beat me. Without me, no one would notice you." She stayed calm, her hands steady. "That's just it, Mr. Kearns. You had to destroy everything around you just so someone else could finally be seen." The audience reacted with silence, a silence more devastating than applause. Donald stepped back, his eyes filling with rage and humiliation. "I'm still the owner here," he shouted, but his voice came out weak, the voice of a man already broken. The lawyer handed Grace a folder. "Sign here." She hesitated. "I don't want the hotel." Raiden placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's not about wanting. It's about justice." Grace signed. The sound of the pen scratching the paper was like the snap of a chain breaking. Donald staggered out of the hall, surrounded by flashes. Outside, the crowd awaited him. Shouts, jeers, microphones thrust in his face. He lowered his head and entered the car. The window rose slowly, and his reflection in the glass looked 20 years older. Meanwhile, the hotel staff gathered around Grace. No one knew what to say. She looked at them, humble, exhausted. "I don't want to change everything. I just want this place to stop shaming the people who work here." One waiter cried. Another began to clap. The sound spread slowly, swelling until it filled the entire lobby. Raiden stood a few steps away, watching with a faint smile, the same one that sealed the bet. "Looks like the hotel found its real owner." Grace smiled back, speechless. The afternoon sun streamed through the glass windows, lighting the golden sign that now seemed to shine differently, less arrogant, more human. Hours later, the lawyer handed Donald the final documents. "It's done. The hotel is hers. The press wants a statement." He didn't answer. He just stared out the limousine window, watching the building that once symbolized his power. In the reflection, he saw only his own ruin. In the lobby, the sign Kern's Grand Hotel began to come down. The letters descended one by one until only a blank space remained on the white marble. The maintenance crew brought the new plaque, the Grace. Simple, elegant, unpretentious, just the name of a woman who turned humiliation into dignity. The press captured the moment and the images spread like wildfire. From maid to hotel owner, the bet that became justice. Raiden watched from a distance, calm. When Grace passed by him, she said softly, "You kept your word." He replied serene, "No, destiny did. I just gave it back what it had taken." Outside, Donald's car vanished down the avenue, but the hotel, for the first time in decades, seemed to breathe freely. And the echo of his once arrogant words, "I'll give you my hotel if you can get a smile from a guest who hates me," now sounded like the epitaph of his own downfall. The name Kern's Grand Hotel was removed during the night. In its place, the new sign, the Grace, gleamed under the cold morning light, reflecting what Donald Kearns's money could never buy: respect. The city watched with curiosity. Reporters crowded at the entrance, narrating the fall of one empire and the birth of another. Inside, everything had changed. The marble, the crystal, the golden corridors, all seemed lighter, less arrogant. The luxury was still there, but now it breathed differently. The staff walked with their heads held high. For the first time, they knew the name of who was in charge, and that name was no longer synonymous with fear. Grace descended the lobby stairs calmly. She still wore her simple uniform, her badge tucked in her pocket, refusing the new owner attire. She wanted to remain among those who cleaned, not above them. The manager approached, emotional. "Mrs. Miller, there are journalists outside asking for an interview." She smiled discreetly. "Let them wait. What needs to shine here today is the work, not my face." Raiden watched from afar, leaning against the wall, his expression serene, the look of someone who had finally found peace. Since everything happened, he had stayed at the hotel, quietly photographing its small details. The hands of the workers, the humble gestures, the faint smiles that hadn't existed before. When Grace passed him, he said, "You know, you changed a lot without saying a word." She replied, "And you changed everything with a smile." Outside, the world kept talking. Headlines, comments, opinions. Donald Kearns had become a symbol of moral decay. His fortune, though untouched, seemed worthless. No brand wanted his name attached. Contracts were suspended, shareholders withdrew, and lawyers began quietly negotiating his retreat from public view. The empire still existed, but he was no longer part of it. One overcast afternoon, a black SUV stopped discreetly on a side street. Donald stepped out, disguised under a cap and dark glasses. He stood before the new facade. No one recognized him. No security moved. The hotel that had once been his now felt like a distant memory. He stared at the golden letters reflecting his shadow on the glass. Inside, he saw Grace walking through the lobby, giving instructions, greeting guests. For a moment, he seemed ready to enter. His hand touched the glass door, then retreated. Inside, Raiden noticed the man standing on the sidewalk. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second, a heavy look, full of silence, without hatred, without forgiveness, just acknowledgement. Donald looked away. He lit a cigarette, took a long drag. His reflection mingled with that of the hotel that now bore another name. He let out a dry, almost inaudible laugh. "She got the smile," he murmured, before extinguishing the cigarette and walking away, swallowed by the city traffic. Inside, life went on. Grace walked through the hallway with a clipboard in hand, observing every detail. The hotel functioned like a living organism. People seemed more human, the sounds gentler. In the garden, Raiden planted a new flower, where before there had only been concrete. "Flowers don't change the world," he said without looking at her. Grace replied, "But they remind us it still has color." The sun began to set. The golden reflection from the windows spread across the walls like a scar learning to shine. The hotel was no longer a symbol of power, but of renewal. And when the last guest crossed the lobby that night, Grace stood for a moment before the glass doors. The sign, the grace, reflected her tired but peaceful face. No applause, no celebration. Only the distant hum of cars and the soft sound of a door closing, the kind of silence that comes only when justice is done, without needing to shout. Raiden approached quietly, camera in hand. "May I take one last picture?" She nodded. The click of the shutter filled the air. "Why the last one?" she asked. He smiled. "Because this is the only one that will last." In the captured image, she stands before the glass, the hotel reflected behind her, the city around, and an ordinary woman carrying, without realizing it, the weight and lightness of her own victory. Across the street, Donald Kearns entered a taxi unnoticed. The city swallowed him whole. The engine faded into the noise of traffic. He looked back one last time, watching the hotel shrink in the rearview mirror. And in that instant, he understood, for the first time in his life, that what is lost with others' contempt isn't money, but the power to be heard. Grace, still standing in the lobby, took a deep breath and whispered softly, as if to herself, "Some smiles cost a lot, but they're worth the world." The clock struck 11 p.m. The lights went out. The hotel slept. And for the first time, it slept in peace. If this story made you feel something, anger, relief, justice, or simply humanity, stay with us. In this channel, every story is a mirror. Some hurt, others heal, and the next ones will make you feel again. Subscribe and keep listening to what the silence of redemption still has to tell.